Okay, so now we are getting into a little bit more of a, I would say more of a complicated part of the tutorial, and that is going to be the navigation bar that's going to be up at the top with all the buttons. We need the buttons to highlight when the mouse goes over them, and all sorts of things. We need to have a logo up there, and all sorts of things that, again, are going to require us to set up things a specific way. Okay, so first thing I forgot to actually add in our CSS is we're going to just put a section here for dividers. And I'm going to put display as blocks. Okay, and the reason this is important is because every time we make a div, we want it to become a block that starts on a new line and takes up the whole width of the page that's available. All right, and then again, I didn't have this. I would have added it later on anyways, but this just means that every divider that is created will have that attribute. If we save it, nothing's going to change because we only have one div in here, and that's just the one that has this picture with the title over it. Now we're going to put in a navigation bar. Okay, so we're going to head back over to our HTML. I'm going to show you something that you may not have used before. So right after the body tag, we are going to use a nav tag. And nav is short for navigation. All right, if I save that, you're not going to see anything change because it's empty right now. But a navigation tag uses a list to place buttons in. All right, and lists, I'm going to show you how a list works. There are several different types of lists, but in this case we're going to use something called an unordered list. So I'm going to put UL like this, and a list is basically a number of objects that are maybe bulleted or numbered, or they go A, B, C, D. And the way that you define what is in a list is you put LI for list item. And I'm just going to put this is a list item. If I save that, you're going to see that we have a bulleted item that says this is a list item. And because it's in the nav, it's basically set itself up at the top where we have it above the hero class. And this is where we're going to have this navigation section. So if I add another list item, I'm going to say this is another item, and I save it. It's going to keep making bulleted list items for these objects. And navigation is going to use that because it's going to turn those list items into actual buttons. This was the way I was taught. Maybe there's a better way of doing it, but this is always the way that I created navigation in the past, and it works really, really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave these two list items like this, but let's shorten the names down to something like contact. These are going to become our buttons, contact, and maybe home for now. Just that, just keep it simple. Okay, we save that, we've got those in there. We're also going to need an area for our logo, which is going to actually sit on the left-hand side here. It's going to sit in the corner. And you know what? I'll wait a little bit before I talk about that because I wanted to talk about the type of images we're using and stuff in that logo. But let's start formatting this nav area so that it looks good and it's going to basically serve the purpose we need it to. So we're going to head back over to our CSS for that. Now, one thing I want to mention is even though we did the hero section first, that was important because I wanted to show you how to set that up. But generally speaking, when I'm doing a CSS file, I always make sure things go in the actual order of the HTML. So because nav is before the hero section, I'm going to put this area that we're working on before the hero part of the CSS. All right, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to put nav because we are going to be editing the navigation tag of the HTML. So first thing I want the nav bar to always be at 100%. Okay, I want it to always sit across the page, all the way across. And usually it'll be fine. It'll be default to that anyways. But the next thing that I like to do with navigation especially is I like to set a height, because I don't want my navigation bar stretching and looking horrible. I want it to be set at a certain height. So I'm going to actually set a height of 50 pixels. If I save that, that might screw this up. Oh no, it's okay. It still fits. So I got a height width of 100%, but I have a height of 50. And I believe if your text goes beyond that, it's just going to expand. But we want it to end up at 50 pixels. I also want to make sure that the nav is sitting perfectly in the corner. You don't have to do this, because if you remember, the body already had this at top 0 and left 0. We'll leave it for now, but if it becomes an issue, then we're going to change it. We're going to set a background color for this block up here. Okay, so let's go background color. We did this before. We're going to set it to, I'll do it as a black starting point. Then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tone it down to 70% again, kind of like the title text below. Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, let's leave it, sorry, let's leave it at 100% for now, because we're going to change that after. I'm also going to change the font color to white. Hopefully that'll work. We'll see. I'm not sure. Might have an issue there. And we're going to save that. Okay, so now you can see that we got some issues. We got this white border at the top. Okay, text is white. It's good. We got the black background. That's good. But now we need to put in that top 0. I'm pretty sure that's what the problem is. Okay, and left 0. That really should not have done that. But we've got a white border. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with that. Maybe, possibly, it has a margin that it shouldn't have. Possibly. So let's set our margin to 0 pixels. Oops. No, it doesn't look like that's going to go away. That's okay. We'll fix that later. I'm not too worried about it right now. We will fix that afterwards. Okay, so we've got our area for the nav bar. All right, and now what we're going to do is we need to get it so that these list items are not sitting one on top of another, because that looks really bad. What we want to do is we want them to sit beside each other, not on top of each other, but beside each other. And we also want them over on the right-hand side. So we're going to set that up right now. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to go into our CSS. We're going to go nav. And if you look back at your HTML, you'll see that the first tag under nav is UL. So we're going to put UL. We're going to affect that first. And let's start by aligning everything inside of that unordered list. So align content. We want it to go to the middle or the center. Okay, save that. We don't see anything change just because they're sitting on top of each other right now. That'll change after. Let's set, you know what? Sorry guys, I'm gonna actually remove this because I'm gonna set that after. I don't think that's gonna work great in this case. Reset for a second here. Let's take off the bullets, because the bullets, we're not going to use them if they're buttons. We're going to say list style. Okay, this is what determines what the list looks like. You can see all these different things we can do, like a circle, decimal, all sorts of things. Greek letters even. Just put none. That will get rid of the bullets. And let's, we'll have to set some padding, but we'll worry about that after. We'll come back to that, okay? Because for right now, we don't need to worry about that just yet. Okay, so we've got the list set up without any bullets, and now we're actually going to make this look somewhat like bullets, okay, to start. All right, and what I'm going to do is you'll notice here that this box that the nav is sitting in, it sits like it has this perfectly sort of solid line between the picture and the block. Let's make it look a little bit more fancy. Let's go into the nav here. And I really like doing this. I put a box shadow. You can also do text shadow, but I'm going to do box shadow. Box shadow is a little goofy because there's a bunch of different values you have to set. So first of all, you're going to tell it which direction, I believe in the X and Y. Or sorry, the X-axis first, which way the shadow is going to move. I'm going to say 0 pixels on the X-axis, which is left and right. Then you got to tell it how many pixels up and down, or the Y-axis it's going to move. So I'm going to put 5 pixels down. And then it wants to know how much of a blur on the shadow. So I'm going to say 5 pixels. And lastly, what it's going to want to know is what color is the shadow. So I'm going to just put black. Okay, save. And you're going to see, oh, you can't see it, but there should have been a shadow underneath that nav bar. And I think I know why. And this is something I haven't explained yet. If you're using a program like, let's use something like Microsoft Word or whatever program you might be using, everything that you put into a website has different order, layers basically, of where those objects are. And so the nav bar needs to be at the very top because it's going to be sort of if you were in a program like that and you said arrange to front, that object would be at the top. And the way you set that is in your nav bar, you're going to put Z index. And Z index controls the layer that object is on. So if you want something to come in front of another object, the lower the number is, the closer it is to you. The higher the number, the further back it is. So if we put a Z index of 1 and we save that, that is going to bring the nav bar as high up as it possibly can. So this object is now at the very top. All right, we still don't see that box shadow. I'm not too worried about it just yet. We'll get to it after. We'll figure out what's going on there afterwards. But for right now, we just want to make sure that that nav bar is always at the top. All right, so it doesn't get hidden behind any pictures or anything weird like that. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to start decorating the list items that are inside of that nav bar. Okay, so let's go under the unordered list down here. And I apologize, guys, this might be a bit of a longer video, but nav list. And let's do a couple things. This is where I want to tell it to align the content to the center. Okay, we won't see any changes yet. Don't worry about it. Then we want to change the background color of those list items. Let's change it to a black. Well, we won't see black, so let's go to a gray. We'll go black background color. Let's go to black for now, and we'll just adjust it to more of a gray so we can actually see it. I'll kind of pull it back a little bit here. Okay, save it. Now you'll see that those list items have a gray background. Okay, then let's change the height of those list items to 35 pixels. Okay, and now you can see it actually pushed them out of the nav. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in a second. Our padding, let's bring it down to 5 pixels. Okay, and here's the important part to get them to go to the right side. We're going to put float right. Okay, that tells it where they should be positioned on the page. And now you'll see that it moves them off to the right hand side, and it also, because they're each floating right, the first one will float to the right first basically, and then the next one's going to float and get pushed up beside it to the right. All right, so you can see now that they are lined up nicely beside each other. And we got a bit of a margin. We got a 5 pixel margin. That's what we put in here. Did I add that yet? No, I did not. So we're going to put that as well because we want a little bit of space between the buttons. We don't want the buttons to just be butted up right against each other. It's going to look bad. So we'll go margin, 5 pixels, save that. Now you'll see there's a bit of a margin. Now we can actually see the shadow, but we also see that this is getting cut off. We're going to fix that in a second, sorry, when we get into positioning, which is another topic that we're going to talk about. That's when things get a little more tricky. Next, what we want to do is we want to actually round the corners on the top of these blocks. So to do that, really simple, we're going to put border top left. Actually, before I show you that, let me just show you what happens if we do border radius. Let's say 10 pixels. What that's going to do is it's going to round all the corners of the box. All right, which is fine. You might like that look. Maybe you want to go with that. I don't know. You can adjust the height. Maybe make them a little smaller. Let's say I went down to 30. That might look okay. Ooh, no, sorry, I put 0. Whoops, 30, right? Like that might look okay. And everything lines up again. So you might be okay with that. Or like I said, you could just line up the top and bottom corners. Or sorry, the top left and top right corners. That's how I had it in my original design. So it was top border top left radius. Okay, I'll show you what that does. We'll go down to 5 pixels because I think 10 is going to be too much. You'll notice now, I don't know if you can see that, but just the top left corner is rounded. I would copy this, paste it, and do the top right radius. Same amount. That's going to kind of give it a rounded edge. It almost looks like little oh, what are those things called? Like dividers, you know, on in a binder or something. You know, you got those page dividers. I went to a higher number. You can see how they're kind of rounded at the top. It makes it a little more interesting. All right, but the buttons are up there and they are in the proper spot. They're not lined up to the bottom yet. We'll get to that, no problem. But I want to show you something else. And I know we're already coming on to about 18 minutes on this video. It's pretty long. Let's look at hover states, because hover states is something really cool to actually turn this into a button. Okay, and you can use this on anything you want. So what you do is you go and make another nav li, because we're going to be affecting the list. Oh, sorry. We have to put, yeah, no, we can go li. The trick here is we put a colon and we put hover, which means, hover, which means that what happens anytime you put the word hover means what is going to happen when your mouse is over top of those things. And so you could do anything here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put background color change. Okay, so the background color changes maybe to, I don't know, pick another color. Let's go like, I picked aqua, which is not going to look good, obviously. But if I save that, you will see you have to click this block to make it active. Click on the browser. But you'll see now when I roll over, it goes to whatever the hover state of those buttons are. Maybe to make it look better, I'm going to go just to a lighter gray because the aqua looks horrible. Save that. Click here. Like I said, just click in this window and then you'll be able to see that. Okay, so hover states, very awesome. Looks great. Our nav is coming along. It's definitely not even close to finished yet. But in the next video here, we're going to add the logo. We're going to make the buttons actually line up. And we're going to look at positioning, which is tricky. Very tricky. And so once we've got that all set up, things are going to look really, really great. So stay tuned for that.